Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, I wanted to use Galarian Moltres in the Go Battle League, but it is a Pokemon that is very hard to get. The one that I'm using today is very attack-weighted because I don't have a lot of good ones. I have caught, I think, 4 in the wild, but every single one has been terrible for PvP. I've tried to trade for some, nothing's really worked out, so I just bit the bullet today, built my really attack-weighted one, so let's see what I can do today in the Great League. Alright, let's head right on into game number 1, Galarian Moltres into Shadow Quagsire. This is a pretty good lead for us, obviously resist the ground-type damage from their fast moves, but they do have Stone Edge, which could be a little bit troublesome if we go down shields later on. They save swap this Shadow Drapion. We have our ground type, our Mud Slapper here, the Gastrodon, which is going to be a hard response to this. I'm going to go for the Body Slam right before they get to another crunch here to make sure they don't have to go down shields or anything. I want to knock this out or make them shield before I do so I don't have to go down shields, and they just let that move go. If Quagsire comes back in, I know I can get a lot of chip against them with Mud Slaps and with Body Slams. At this point, Gastrodon is putting in a lot of work into our opponent's team. They're still going to have to throw a charge move if they want to knock us out because we are still not even in the red, just barely got there, and now if they don't throw a move, we are going to get this Body Slam. They do make a nice catch, however, on their Mandibuzz. We do have our Feraligatr, which is non-shadow. This is a very interesting pick. Obviously, takes a lot less damage from charge moves, from fast moves, but in return, I guess obviously we do less damage ourselves, but I do have access to Ice Beam. It's going to be super effective against Mandibuzz, but at this point, they have 2 shields, right? I only just want to chip them down as much as possible. I want to start spamming out charge moves. I'll at least bait the Ice Beam, but at this point, I'm going to go straight Hydro Cannon, try to land whatever I can here, get shields down, and if they let a Hydro Cannon through, that's also fine. It puts them even closer to range where an Ancient Power could farm them down, and now a Dark Pulse is going to be thrown by our opponent. If I just save shield at this point for our Moltres, I should be in a pretty good spot. We still have our Gastron as well, which could have some nice fast move pressure against that Quagsire later on. We'll see what our opponent is going to do. I'm going to throw another Hydro Cannon here right before getting farmed down, and if they swap out, we'll swap. If they stay in, I guess we'll just have to see what they're going to do, and they do swap to their Quagsire. Now I know I can double shield, farm them all the way down, likely go for either an Ancient Power against that Mandibuzz, or potentially go for a Brave Bird if I get there. I also know there is no way they're going to get to Stone Edge after baiting me twice. They might get to a third Aqua Tail, but it's only Aqua Tail, right? It's not going to do that much damage, and they do reach another move, Quagsire, even though Mudshot did get an energy decrease in this season. Still pretty spammy here, so they do get that third move, but we're almost at an attack of our own. We have the Brave Bird loaded. We're going to chuck it over at this Mandibuzz and take them out here, getting game number 1 and getting the win here. GG to our opponent. Very interesting showcase, not really just of Moltres there, though, but of Gastrodon putting in so much work. Speaking of Moltres, though, another fantastic lead, another ground type, and this time they're staying in. You might be like, man, this is a very strange play by our opponent. Why would they stay in ground type into a flying type? But that is because Marowak has access to Rock Slide. They're a Shadow Pokemon as well. It would do a lot of damage, and it's actually a little bit uncomfortable to knock this Pokemon out. I have Brave Bird, right, as our main damaging move. If I go for Ancient Power and they call it, it's going to do nothing. So I do have to fully send the Brave Bird here and see what I can do. I see that they shield. I think they're going to throw in good timing, so I catch the Rock Slide here on Gastrodon. Hopefully it's a Rock Slide, at least not a bait, and it is. That is fantastic, and we see that in comes their own Feraligatr. I guess another person running the non-Shadow Feraligatr here today. I don't really know if that's the play at this point. I was just trying it out for fun today, but I actually saw a lot of people running this as well. I'm going to be able to survive that move, probably get to 2 Body Slams as well, and if I can, I either get a shield or a knockout against this Feraligatr. They do let that first one go. I get to yet another Body Slam here, so if they don't shield this, I probably knock them out here. What is our opponent going to do? Do they give us switch advantage? They do. Is that Marowak going to farm us down? Because if they do, I caught the move, right? They have almost no energy. I can farm this down with Moltres, probably shield once and have a Brave Bird to go against the backline, or throw the Ancient Power against this Marowak before they throw a move to make it so they have to make the decision first. They actually let that Marowak go down. Final Pokemon is going to be shown. It is a Shadow Galarian Weezing. That is a very cool pick, but luckily our Feraligatr, being non-Shadow especially, helps out a lot here. Makes it so we don't quite get farmed down by fast moves after taking a move. We can go for 2 Hydro Cannons here and hopefully get the knockout against this Weezing. The worst case scenario right now would be a Play Rough one-shotting us. I'm going to shield just in case. It's an Overheat. Probably would have survived that just barely, but it does do more damage than a Brutal Swing, so a pretty good play by our opponent to try to snipe us down there. GG's to them. Next match is not a great lead, though. We've had 2 good leads in a row. This is a terrible lead. We're going to swap in our Feraligatr, try to throw a Hydro if they let us, and see what they're going to do. The Shadow Feraligatr in this matchup gets farmed down very easily, but the non-Shadow survives a little bit longer, can likely get to 3 Hydro Cannons if they stay in, but looks like they do instantly swap out after taking that Hydro Cannon. This is looking pretty fine for us, though. We're up a little bit of energy on them. I'm always going to be able to reach this Hydro Cannon before they will, and because of that, there's a chance I can flip switch this game, especially because their health is lower than mine at this point. I'm going to shield this up, try my best to get shield shields down, because if shields are down, I'm not as worried about that Wigglytuff into my Moltres. They do have energy on Wigglytuff, but it's not a lot. The worst move they could throw against me would be like an Icy Wind, which isn't even that scary for our Moltres. So I can shield this, I can farm them all the way down, have a Hydro Cannon loaded up against the backline. We'll see what's going to come in. We do get that full farm down. We have like 1 HP, so 1 Charm would probably go through if they come back in with that Wigglytuff. Looks like that is their choice that they make. Wigglytuff is not going to want to take this move, or else they're going to be in fast move farm down range for either our Moltres or our Gastron. And it looks like they actually do come in with a Diggersby here. This is fantastic news. Diggersby obviously not exactly the scariest Pokemon to see as a Moltres. If they do have Hyper Beam, which is a very rare moveset, it would do a lot of damage. But if they're just running the classic Fire Punch Scorching Sands, then I have nothing to worry about. With that said, they did build up a lot of energy. Could this be a Hyper Beam? We actually do get beamed here by this Diggersby, which could be bad. Now, if this Diggersby can get to another Hyper Beam, I don't think Hyper Beam knocks me out. They probably have to go for 2 Scorching Sands, but if they are able to survive my moves and knock me out here with this Diggersby, there is a chance that we're going to lose this game. I have my Earth Power loaded, though. Is this enough to knock them out, or to put them into range where Mud Slaps will knock them out before they get to another move? It looks like it probably will be. They try to swap into Wigglytuff to get some fast move damage, to maybe get a charge move, but it doesn't quite work out for them. We take the game there. GG's. Alright, another ground type in the lead. Shadow Kanto Marowak does not love to see Moltres. It's not that terrible of a matchup, but it's not the best one either. So they do swap out to their Dugong. They likely have 2 strong answers to Moltres. I don't actually have a great answer to Dugong Say Swap with this team, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with our Feraligatr. I've seen some people run Feraligatr with Crunch. That's a great way to handle these Dugongs, but I only have Hydro Cannon, so I'm going to be throwing resisted charge moves, but even though they're resisted, they do a lot of damage anyway, and I can start spamming out these Hydro Cannons, hopefully knocking out this Dugong, and making it so I can get the full farm down here, having energy to go against the backline. We'll have to see what our opponent is going to do. Is this an Icy Wind, or is this going to be a Drill Run? I'm going to shield it up, hoping right now that our opponent does not bait us with an Icy Wind, but they do, which is so annoying, because I think that means they actually are going to survive these Shadow Claws, which they do on 1 HP. I have to throw a charge move at the last second. Instead of having a lot of energy, now I'm going to be almost energy dry here, going into the backline. What is their next Pokemon that they're going to bring in? They actually just come back in with Marowak, so if they let this go, it's still a Hydro Cannon from a Feraligatr. This is going to do a lot of damage, and they do let the move through. It does a catastrophic amount of damage to them, but in comes an Ariados, a shield advantage Ariados. You might think that this would be a decent matchup. A poison into a ground type, we'd be in a good spot, right? But no, they have Trailblaze, which does a catastrophic amount of damage there to our Gastrodon. But with that said, we survive the first move, because that move, it's more of a buffing attack, right? It doesn't do a lot of raw damage. It adds up over time, but it doesn't do a lot of damage initially. Surviving that move is huge. It forces them to throw another attack, or else I would have got another Body Slam off, but now they are double boosted with this Ariados. They have energy on that Marowak. How are we going to win this game? I see 2 potential ways to win. One is by forcing them to swap out at some point, clear their buff to make it so I don't have to shield a lunge, and the other way would be to potentially just catch a move here. I'm going to try to catch, but they swap at the same time that I do, but by swapping there, they clear their attack boost. That lunge will no longer one-shot us from this range. I can safely shield this move, knowing that a Rock Slide will not be reached by this Marowak, and if I can farm them all the way down here, I'll have energy to go against that Ariados. We survive a lunge. They realize that. GG's to our opponent. Very close endgame. Alright, next match, a huge core breaker for our team, the Pangoro. We have our Gastrodon, though. Normally, these Pangoro teams are very weak to Gastrodon, so I safe swap my Gastrodon in, hoping they don't swap out, hoping that I can use my best answer to it and just knock them out. Unfortunately, they do bait us with a Night Slash. They always either go for a bait and then stay in this matchup, or sometimes they just close combat and swap, so it's kind of a 50-50 call there if you can make that right. It seems like I almost never do against these, but I'm going to try my best here to just fast move this into a range where it's much more manageable for my Gator and for my Moltres. We do shield up properly the next time the close combat, but now they're almost at their next move. I'm going to have to throw another Body Slam to either get a shield or get the knockout here. They do actually end up double shielding this Pangoro. They have to instantly throw or risk getting knocked out by the Mud Slap, and they do throw their move. It's going to be another close combat. I can farm this down, though, now with our Moltres, and even though that's a terrible lead, we have some sort of advantage in this game, right? We have energy lead on Moltres. Shields are down. I can probably Brave Bird something if I need to, but in comes an Alolan Sand Slash, not what I want to see, and in the back is going to be a Shadow Drapion. This is terrible news, because Shadow Drapion obviously is not going to get one shot here. They're going to do a lot of damage with Crunch, and I'm going to have to throw 2 moves if I want to knock this thing out ever. I am going to take 1 move because I'm a non-Shadow Feraligatr. It's going to do a little bit less damage than it would otherwise, but it still does so much of my health here. I'm going to try to throw this Hydro Cannon on CMP with the Aqua Tail to guarantee that I'm going to have a little bit of health. Maybe there's a chance I can get to another Hydro against that A-Slash, but I think they get a move right now. Yeah, it's not looking good for us, because I think our Moltres is not going to be able to put this into a range where Brave Bird knocks them out. I need to survive long enough to get the Sucker Punch damage to put them below half health here. At below half health, if I would have thrown a Brave Bird, I think there's a chance I could have knocked them out, but I think this Ice Punch will just take out our Moltres. It only does under 50% damage normally to Moltres, but as I was saying, my Moltres is very attack weighted, so I take so much damage from those moves. Another ground type Pokemon here, actually ABA ground here with the Steelix in the back. Love to see it though, because Gastrodon is a fantastic answer. I have to imagine if there's a Shadow Steelix on his screen, there's probably another Steel type in the back. Normally you see this with like Bastiodon or something, so if that is the case, I am so happy to see this because I love RPSing these. Honestly, very I don't want to say anything too rude here, but they're not very skilled teams, right? The fast move pressure alignment type of teams that try to make it so it's just based on alignment who wins. If I can farm this down, that's going to be great. I don't get to the next Earth Power, unfortunately, because I am going to be debuffed by those Psychic Fangs, so I'm just going to throw the Body Slam here against their Gastrodon. Chip them down a little bit, but that chip damage doesn't really matter because we do see it's a Basti in the back. We have our Gator for this, and now I know I can get to 3 Hydro Cannons, knock them out here. There's really nothing they can do because even our Moltres is going to have some fast move pressure. If somehow I don't knock them out with these Hydro Cannons, it's going to be completely fine. We're still going to win this game, and now another Hydro Cannon has already been reached before they've reached a single Stone Edge. I'm going to undercharge a little bit just to give us a farm down if they happen to stay in this game, I guess. That way we can start Hydro Cannoning that Gastrodon later on, and now we can shield this up, Shadow Claw them all the way down here, and win the game eventually. It's a very bulky Pokemon here, but yeah, they just realize at that point it's over. GG's for our opponent. Oh my goodness, I think this was Rise to Occasion that we're fighting right now. Luckily, we have a good lead with a Moltres into a Malamar, but he has that tricky safe swap here with the Dugong. Not the Pokemon I love to see, but at this point, I've kind of learned from this matchup, right? I learned from the last time, shield up the first attack. This way they don't Icy Wind you later on, and maybe I can get that Shadow Claw down, have a lot of energy for the backline, and be in a much better spot than I was in the first time we saw this Dugong safe swap. Hydro Cannon is going to come through, put them just about at half health. I can reach another one here before their next move, but I'm going to over farm just in case our opponent wants to swap out after this, make it so I have energy to go for the backline, and a Drill Run is not going to threaten us just yet. We have a lot of energy here, right? I think I am 3 Shadow Claws away from them getting to their next move, so if those 3 are able to knock him out, I'm going to be in a pretty good spot. If they don't, it's a little bit awkward, but he actually hard swaps here to his Feraligatr, which means our Moltres has a lot of play, but we are down shields, which could be a little bit tricky. I know that I want to keep my Moltres for that Malamar, and our Gastrodon is going to actually be in a decent enough spot to neutralize this Feraligatr. We survive 1 move, we can get to 2 Body Slams if he doesn't throw 2 attacks against us, so I know that this isn't going to be quite as scary as it could be if our Gastrodon was a little bit squishier. Body Slam will come through, he ends up shielding that attack, and now I can see my way that I can win this game. It's going to be by landing a Brave Bird against that Malamar, farming down this Gator, and hopefully being able to win the game using our Moltres to sweep. He actually ends up swapping out here, sniping us down with Malamar, but because he does that, now there's no chance that Rise is going to be able to catch a move. I can go straight for the Brave Bird here, knock this out. I know that Dugong is 2 away from getting to an Icy Wind. I know that that Feraligatr is going to get 1 shot with 1 single fast move here, so I just shield this up. I keep tapping my screen, I tap down this Feraligatr, I 1-shot that Malamar, and it's going to be a full sweep after we Sucker Punch down this Dugong. GG's to Rise. Very fun game there. Alright, next battle, we're going to see that we have our Moltres into an Altaria. Apparently, I guess Altaria is back on the menu. It's actually a little bit terrible for our backline to see, right? We have Feraligatr I guess it wouldn't be that bad with Ice Beam, but we obviously have Gastron, which is probably one of the worst matchups for Gastron in the entire game here, so very glad not to see that alignment here, at least yet. So I'm going to try my best here to go for the Ancient Powers, farm down this Altaria, and make it so that this is not going to be anywhere near as big a threat as it would be if it was against our Gastrodon or against our Feraligatr. I really want them to no-shield this move at this point, though, because if they do end up shielding, they could do a lot of fast move pressure to our backline, so it's really nice that they do end up letting that go, because I get a full farm down here. There's a chance maybe I can get to a Brave Bird or an Ancient Power against something. They come in Clodsire. I try to go for the Brave Bird, but I get Poison Stung down right before I get the move, and in comes another non-Shadow Gator. So they have Clodsire, Gator backline, very spicy stuff there. We're going to throw the Body Slam against this, chip it down a little bit, and make it so our own Gator will be a lot better at countering this. I know at this point that we have a lot of play. We just have to invest into our Gastrodon here to knock out both that Clodsire and their Feraligatr. And the thing is, our Feraligatr also has a lot of play, right? Because their Gator is lower than ours. We're up on energy at this point, and our Gator is going to do a lot of damage into that Clodsire if they happen to ever let us align that. They are at another move here, but I know I get my next one before they get theirs, but our opponent might make a catch if they some sort of win condition this game. They do swap to Clodsire. It's not quite a catch, but since I desync the switch clocks by throwing that body slam against that Feraligatr, I do have to throw this to resync the clocks back up and make it so I can swap to Gastrodon. With that said, though, we are in such a solid position at this point. We farm them all the way down with Mud Slaps. We throw energy against that Feraligatr when that comes back in, and even if for some reason they had a move, which I know they don't, I could just farm them down with our Gator later on and win the game that way. They realize, yeah, at that point, there's not much they can do. All right, Moltres into, what is this? A Lucario. That's actually a terrible lead. It's actually a terrible Pokemon for a lot of our team, right? This thing has access to Thunder Punch. It also potentially has access to Hydro Cannon. Luckily, though, safe swapping our Feraligatr gets to a move right before they get to their first one. So we do draw a very early shield here, but our Feraligatr is extremely low. We are already below half health just with fast move damage. They go for a power-up punch. That's not what you want to see as the Feraligatr, but in comes the Mandibuzz here. This is not looking great for us, but there's still a chance for us this game because we are kind of stalling these switch clocks out. Maybe I can swap out here, keep our Feraligatr alive, and maybe use our Gastrodon later on against that Lucario. I'm kind of thinking at this point, too, we've already seen that they have Power-Up Punch on that Lucario. Is there a chance that his next move is going to be maybe Thunder Punch? If so, then our Gastrodon really just kind of walls that moveset. It's not going to be as threatening as if it were to have like a Shadow Ball attack or something like that. And if that is the case, then our Gastrodon is sitting very pretty in the back. They're overfarming a lot of energy here. I throw the Ancient Power. Hopefully it's enough to knock them out. If it is, that is going to be a lot of energy down the drain for our opponent. And they do let that move through. In comes an Azumarill. Okay, Azumarill is not really what I want to see here, but we have Brave Bird, right? We're a Galarian Moltres. This is actually going to do a decent amount of damage here if they let it through, which they do. That's actually our hardest hitting move that we could ever land against an Azumarill with our entire team. They farm us, though, all the way down with Lucario. Is this the moment of truth here? Is it a close combat? Is it going to be a Shadow Ball? Or is it just Power Up Punch because they have Thunder Punch as their second attack? Looks like that is going to be the option. That does nothing to us. We have a lot of health left over on our Gastrodon. Try to reach for the Earth Power to draw a shield. We still have our Gator alive as well. As long as this is not a Hydro Pump, we survive. It's just a play rough. We can throw the Body Slams here, start getting shields, and since our Gator is still around, we can try to make them force energy against that, or potentially just close out using it if we swap in now. We have our Hydro Cannon loaded. Just chuck it against this Azumarill. It's going to knock them out, or put them into Shadow Claw downrange at this point. Yeah, not quite enough knockout because it is the non-Shadow Gator, but yeah, we fast move them down, and we take the game against an incredibly terrible lead there. Okay, well, speaking of incredibly terrible lead, you might be asking yourself, what do we do against Morpeko lead? We lose. Apparently, we just hard lose. Yeah, moving on. We didn't think about that team building today. Hopefully we don't see too many more of those. Alright, speaking of Core Breakers, though, yet another one here with a Pangoro. Not a great Pokemon to see. Once again, though, Gastrodon is generally a very safe Pokemon in this. I'm going to try to call the Night Slash. It's the close combat. That's not what you want to see. This is actually very terrible for us right now, because our Gastrodon would be very strong into this Feraligatr, but we are going to throw the Earth Power here, potentially get the shield or the knockout, but since it's a non-Shadow Gator, it doesn't even knock them out. They survive that, and this is such a bad spot to be in, right? We know that they still have that Pangoro around. We also know that they are going to get to 2 Hydro Cannons against our Gator, so we're going to be very low. We're going to have almost no resources to our name. Is there any chance we can win this, or are we just out of luck right now? We're going to have to take yet another move here. It's a Hydro Cannon. It's not going to knock us out, but it's not going to be great. I have to just let it go, though, because I know that that Pangoro is going to just sweep us if they get shield advantage. In comes that Pangoro, though. We are able to throw a move against it here with our Hydro Cannon. I'm going to try to come in with our Moltres at this point, but I think I need to call either the close combat properly or call the no shield on a Night Slash. Let's see what I do here. I no shield, and we are making all of the wrong calls this game. They just full send the close combat, and there is a Clodsire in the back. That is not exactly what our Moltres wanted to see there. GG's to our opponent. That was kind of a terrible team for us to try to overcome. All right, next match here against a Diggersby in the lead. We did get beamed earlier today. Is that going to happen again? I really hope not. That was kind of embarrassing, but I guess our Gastron still won that game, but we'll hopefully not have to deal with that because this is a Fire Punch Diggersby from the looks of it. They're not even baiting that they have Hyper Beam, so we're just going to no shield, go for the Brave Birds, and try to draw shields from them. I know that I've Sucker Punched it down into range where our own Gator can probably go for a Hydro Cannon and knock them out, which is very nice, because normally it's a little bit of an awkward matchup not having any fast move pressure as the Feraligatr here, but now we get the full farm down. We're almost at another Brave Bird at this point, and if we can land a Brave Bird against basically anything, that's going to get us a guaranteed shield. It looks like it's the Feraligatr that tries to farm us down. They would be able to farm us down, but I'm just going to swap out because we get a shield. I think Shield Advantage Gator is a very safe swap here, where you can no shield this knowing that at worst it's a crunch, but normally it's just going to be a Hydro. We survive that, and we're going to try to build up as much energy as possible. Just shield if they throw another move, because I want to see if they're going to swap out or if they're just going to stay in this matchup. They do end up throwing another Hydro. We shielded it up. We're getting close to 100 energy, so I do have to throw a Hydro Cannon now. And since they are staying in, it seems like they might be a little bit scared of our Feraligatr at this point. We do land that move. I have to throw a second move, though, if I want to knock them out, and I throw it right before they get their Hydro Cannon. If they shield, I think I can shield and farm them down. If they no shield, I think I still am going to be able to get to a Hydro Cannon here. Looks like it's a Gastrodon as their third Pokemon. I still have a bit of my Moltres. I have an entire Gastrodon of my own here as well. We need to swap in. Our Gastrodon is easily going to win the mirror up one shield, and now we just go for the Earth Power, knock them out, hopefully, and take the game. They are staying in here for some reason. I don't know why you wouldn't just top left at this point. You know it's a Gastrodon mirror, you know you're down shield, and you also know that I still have health on my Gator and on my Moltres, but they're trying, I guess. They're probably going to bait us with a Body Slam. That's, I guess, their best bet at winning this game, but I'm pretty sure they have no chance here. We're just staying into that till a bitter end, I guess. GG's to them. Next game, Moltres into Galarian Weezing. Okay, well, we saw the Shadow version of this earlier today. This is the non-Shadow, a little bit scary, but I'm going to swap into my Gator, and that is not what you want to see as a Gator safe swap. It is a Toxapex. Luckily, though, being the non-Shadow Gator, you take a lot less damage from these poison jabs. You survive a little bit longer, and 3 Hydro Cannons are going to start adding up over time, especially with the Shadow Claw damage that we're getting in against this. So we're going to be able to force him to throw Sludge Waves, likely, and maybe shield this and get some sort of advantage out of this matchup. Even though I'm trying my best, though, I know that it's ABA poison so far, right? We saw the Weezing, we see the Toxapex here. I have to imagine that the final Pokemon is going to be some sort of hard answer to ground types, because if it's not, this team just loses to a single ground type Pokemon. We do have that Gastron in the back that's right now just hoping that our opponent is disrespecting the heck out of ground type damage, but we'll just have to wait and see. I can draw both shields here. The reason that I shield is because I know that Moltres, when shields are down, can still Brave Bird that Weezing, do a lot of damage into it, and maybe still have some play this game. And we do get both shields. So with that said, I want to stop tapping because I want to get those sucker punches on my Moltres to build up energy. At this point, I really don't care if I take a Sludge Wave. I'm still going to be able to get that Brave Bird off, hopefully knock out that Weezing. It is going to be a Sludge Wave, unfortunately. I was hoping I wouldn't take it, but I'm fine taking that move because I can still reach this Brave Bird here, do a catastrophic amount of damage to this Weezing, probably put them into range where Mud Slap would knock them out, and see what their final Pokemon is going to be. If there's any chance we can win the Zero Shield against whatever's in the back, I think Gastron might just have a chance here. It's a Shadow Quagsire. That is not an answer to Gastrodon. It's a better answer, I guess, to things like the Clodsires, the Diggersbys, and maybe the Marowaks, but it's not an answer to Gastrodon. They have 2 moves now, but that Mud Slap is going to register before they can throw their second attack, so we farm them all the way down. In comes that Weezing. We slap them down too. Gastrodon, out of nowhere, pulling back a game that was looking very bad for us. All right, next matchup here, a Jumpluff in the lead. Jumpluff is actually a little bit problematic for our whole team, but we are going to be able to deal with it with Moltres, potentially, as long as they don't get a huge energy lead. And now we know how to play out the Dugong safe swap. We come in with our Feraligatr, we shield that first attack, we try to farm them all the way down and have energy for their backline. It depends on what their backline is, though, to see how much play we're going to have this game, because obviously they're already a little bit strong against our Gastrodon. They've had the Jumpluff in the lead, and they've also had this Dugong here, which is a little bit scary. We'll see what our opponent is going to do. They do throw another Drill Run, no Icy Wind shenanigans here, and now we can land yet another move here with our Feraligatr, probably put them into Shadow Claw downrange, and if they come back in with that Jumpluff, that's why I love using Ice Beam on Gator. I've seen some people use Crunch, but Ice Beam is so good for the grass types. It either guarantees a shield or basically a one-shot. I think since we're both non-Shadow, they can technically survive this with just a little bit of health, but I have yet another Hydro Cannon loaded. I can throw this against this Jumpluff, and now it's going to be a 3-on-1 if they let this move through. If they do let it go, I think we're in a very good spot to win this game. Their final Pokemon being a Morpeko, yeah, I can only imagine that that is a good spot for our ground-type Pokemon to be in. We were able to take that game there. GG's to our opponent. Next match against the Shadow Dragonite. Our backline hates to see this Pokemon, and I think our Moltres is actually a decent answer. In comes another Morpeko. All right, this is a fantastic spot to be in. We have access to Mud Slap. They're not going to throw anything that's going to knock us out, except for Seed Bomb. This is a Seed Bomb Morpeko here that nearly one-shots us. Can they farm us down before we're able to reach the Body Slam? Not quite, but if they're able to farm us down now, this could be catastrophic. They are going to end up just letting that go. They're not confident that they can Thunder Shock down, but in comes that Dragonite. This went from a very good matchup to an extremely bad one, because they baited out my ground type. There's a chance there's something like a Toxapex in the back, maybe a Clodsire. Clodsire would be fine, but Toxapex especially would be terrible for us to see. I think I'm going to go for the Ancient Power here, see if we can knock out this Dragonite, or see if we can draw a shield. I think Dragonite actually is not going to be able to survive the Sucker Punches, though. If they stay in here, yeah, we farm them all the way down. What's their final Pokemon going to be? Thankfully for us, it's going to be a Quagsire. We have a lot of play in this. I'm going to throw the Ancient Power to give them a lot less farm, and to also make it so either we draw a Shield, which I guess that you were miscounting, or put them into Hydro Cannon range. I know I survived a Stone Edge from the non-Shadow Quag. We kind of got bailed out here. I thought it was going to be some sort of double weak to ground team, but no, it's just a Quagsire in the back, which is much more manageable. Hydro Cannons would knock them out eventually there with that Quagsire at the top left. They realize that is all they can do. GG's to our opponent. That was a very fun team to use today. We climbed a lot, 5 positive sets in a row. It got us up, I think, somewhere into the 3100s as well, which is very nice at this point in the season. Let's see where it's actually going to put us exactly. I think we're going to cash it in. 31-36, yeah, so very, very solid performance by this team today. Galarian Moltres, first time I've ever used it in the Great League. It's way better than I thought it was. I kind of didn't know why people were using it so much. Now that I've tried it out, and mine isn't even that good, I'm starting to understand why it's getting used so much. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. I stream Pokemon Go PvP nearly every day at twitch.tv/ItsAXN, so if you want to see this kind of content live, please make sure to check me out there. Also, I'm going to upload a lot more to the channel, so please make sure to subscribe if you want to see more content here. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.